All right, we are back. It is, what is it, December 13th. We've been going for 14 weeks. We've taken a few off. We're probably up to 16 weeks. We started the Mentor Roundtable back at the end of August, and it's been pretty awesome. And of course, thank you to our sponsor, Gaggle, who's been helping us out. We have our shirts. I see Ariel has her shirt on. Did you two get your shirts?
Yes.
All right, good. Got your shirts, and we've been talking a lot about strategies. We've been talking about support, and one of the things that we seem to kind of gloss over, but I really wanted to dive into this week, is things that have gone well as we start to round out 2020. And we've been, well, I know the two of you were at Springfield last year when COVID really hit in March, and we shut down, and Ariel and I were in the profession already. And then this year we've been going in some capacity in COVID education, and we've heard a lot of struggles, and we've heard a lot of things that have been difficult. But sometimes we have to just step back and say these things are going well, and that is definitely something I wanted to talk about tonight. I wanted to have people share. Craig is here. He said he had to check out the great stuff that we're doing, so that's awesome. Hopefully you can have something tonight to share as well. Craig, who was also on the other podcast that I do, you can't make this up. So that was awesome. So as we talk about celebrations, I am definitely going to start with the two of you, as I usually do. But you two came into this profession at the height of uncertainty. So I would love for the two of you to share some things to, you always get a shout out, Christine. You got to work it in. It can't just be like asking for it. It's like, we'll figure it out. So, Craig Martin's here tonight too. He heard celebrations and he heard Christine looking for a shout out, so he jumped in. So, Emily and Molly, what are some things this year that have gone well for you that you can share with us that we can kind of talk about and share with you?
I mean, getting a job is pretty
Okay,
exciting.
cool.
Start like large, I guess. It's just, I know I have a lot of friends who I graduated with as well who did not find jobs in like all sorts of majors too. So it's definitely a tough time to find employment. And so we're both very lucky to have the chance to live together and work like in similar areas. So that's a huge number one. But for small things, I think just having students for me opening up to me and like talking to me about things that either they're interested in or things that are going poorly in like their lives and that they want some advice on. I think that just making student connections has been a huge plus for me. And I was really nervous about going into that with my remote kids. I was just afraid that that wasn't going to happen. And I've been having so much of that, students asking for one-on-one meetings to let me know about what's going on in their lives and just bringing up all sorts of things, which is really wonderful on a smaller scale. So I think that my student connections have been great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That was exactly what I was thinking, but I can touch upon other things too. So I agree, starting completely remote for 2 months, like building relationships as a person is something that like comes pretty naturally to me. I'm fairly outgoing. And so I was like, how am I going to be able to transfer this over the computer? But that has gone really well. And I have great relationships with my kids, which is awesome. And then inside the classroom, I think I was really nervous that we use specific math programs, specific reading programs, specific writing program, that I wasn't going to get to have room for creativity. But I have come to find out that my school is pretty flexible and lets us kind of take control of things. So I've been able to like work creativity into my lessons and do fun different things that go along with everything we're learning. And so that has gone really well, and the kids respond really well to that.
Awesome. So as awesome it is to hear about your celebrations, I'm going to push you a little bit on it because you two are the voice. As awesome it is to share those celebrations, you are the voice of new educators. So Emily, you talked about building relationships, and Molly, you were just talking about trying new programs and different things. If you could give advice for someone who's still struggling with those things, what would you tell them? Because it's a celebration for you. You've reached this place where you're happy and sharing that. So if somebody's not, what would you tell them?
I feel like just time, like spending time with every kid. And when you're working remotely, it's really tough to find that one-on-one time or small group time, just because you're not in a classroom where you can talk in the hallway or going out to lunch or something really quickly to touch base. So
Mhm.
I did have the chance to pull every kid aside one-on-one to just like ask them about their favorite things about school or things that they want me to know about them. I did little surveys at the very beginning of the year, getting to know them. And I tried to bring those little things into class that I saw patterns with. And honestly, just talking, like if you send them out in small groups, just fooling around and like having fun with them and just chit chat conversations makes a huge difference, because you can almost see them like take a deep breath and like let their guard down. It's not as nerve wracking to talk to an adult as they were anticipating it to be, and it just makes it more fun. So I think just talking makes a huge difference.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I think in terms of incorporating creativity into lessons and things like that, advice that I would give would be to honestly just like take a risk, and also to trust yourself and your ability to teach. Because originally I was worried, oh, if I don't go exactly by what this book says, are they not going to learn everything? Are they not going to be able to practice this as much? And then you have to take a step back and be like, I went to school for this. Like, I know how to teach multiplication. I've done it once, and I know that if I do this fun activity with them, they're still going to be learning about it. They might not just be doing every single practice paper in the book, and that's okay. And to just take a risk and do something that might make you feel really silly or might not seem like it's exactly what your curriculum says, because that's the things that end up being the most impactful for a lot of kids.
Awesome. So after we kicked off, Craig, Dennis, Jacqueline joined in. It's awesome to see all three of you. It's been Dennis. You didn't give Craig the heads up that you were going full like bow tie. You were like, I'm just going to show up and show off at the same time. And you know what? I'm not even going to tell him. I'm going to wait till he's on first. I'm going to go over to the attendees, check everything out, and then when I see like I'm going to come on and look like GQ style, then I'll just get moved over. So the three of you, thanks for jumping on. We are talking about celebrations tonight, and I'd love to hear some from this year from you, because it's been a trying year. And as we close the year, I want to make sure we also talk about things that have been exciting or going well for you as well. We just heard some awesome stuff from Emily and Molly, and I want to open up to the four of you. And Ariel, of course, you can jump on. You were here for the Swifty conversation, so you've been here from the jump.
Even conversations like that, it's just nice to sometimes talk about something that's not related to school with the kids. I say sometimes, it's all the time. I love just chatting with my kids, and it's great to have these conversations. And I used to have this fear, what if I don't reach what I need to teach in the curriculum? What if they're not learning? You know what? If they're happy, it will happen. And that's what I've realized this year. I mean, I've said this every time I'm on here, every week. I'm teaching something new. I'm not a new teacher. I've been hard on myself the past couple of months sometimes, where I'm like, I know I'm a good teacher, but I don't know the content. I don't really know the age that well. But now I feel like I'm in a good groove. And it, like Molly said, it took time. It took about 3 months for my students to feel more comfortable, for me to feel more comfortable. And we're just celebrating the fact that we haven't had, and I don't want to jinx this, I'm going to knock on wood, we have not had one virtual day yet. We've been face to face every single day. So I feel really grateful that we can go in every single day in person. I feel very safe in school. My students are very grateful to be in person. And I know that there's pros and cons in both, with remote and virtual and in-person learning and hybrid. But the way that our model is designed is for us to be in person, and virtual would be if we needed to be. So I feel really fortunate. My celebration is that I can do what I need to do every day. And my students that have enrolled in coming to school in person can, and that we haven't closed down, because there was definitely an expectation where I live that we would possibly be closed earlier than we are. So we feel really grateful that we're here, and tell my kids that every day. Every time that we kind of feel ourselves going in the slump, I'm like, we're here, we're back. Remember virtual school? They're like, never again. I'm like, no, we're so happy that we're all back together. So it's been a lot of different celebrations this year, but like Molly said, it definitely took time, and I'm feeling like we're going over that hill now.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll just kind of piggyback off of what Ariel said, because it sounds like our experience was very similar. I am also new grade level, not new content, but I've never taught really anything that I'm teaching right now. I'm still in LA, but at the middle school level. And I was an admin last year, and it wasn't the best experience. I've said this a couple of times. I loved my job. I loved my teachers. I loved everything I did. The environment was just toxic. And so I really felt like my goal for this year was just to fall back in love with teaching. And I 100% did. And I go to work every day and I am stressed out. Like, the only thing I can hold on to right now is just like being there for my kids and having fun with my kids. It's really not about, like, I hate to say it because it makes me sound like kind of a Grinch, but like, really the only thing that I care about is the kids. I'm not really worried about making friends at work yet. I'm not really worried about having connections anywhere else. Like, I really want to do what's best for them and allow them to have a really great experience, because they're so stressed out because they're doing like half day school or hybrid. And so, and we've also had a lot of kids go into quarantine like here and there. And so, sometimes I have like an iPad that is part of my like group work. And sometimes, they're zooming in, and I mean, it's a hot mess every day. But we have fun, and I have one class where we have like 25 inside jokes, and another class where all we do is talk about food. And, we still get done what we need to get done. But, I can't worry about the fact that that a lot of my colleagues are very nervous about getting through the curriculum, because the curriculum to me is like, it's new. And so I knew no matter what, I was not going to do it right. So I'm not super concerned about, that. I'm doing what I need to do to, get through the year. And we have a lot of fun, and it's been really good. And I did make one really good friend at work. She's actually retiring this year, which is kind of a bummer. But she's the greatest mentor. She's amazing. And she's probably one of my like favorite parts of the year too. So it's just been a really good experience, and falling in love again with what I do every day.
That's awesome. Dennis, your boy Jason, this one set him up for a softball. He could have come up and said, like, this year's celebration, I work with the best principal. I work like this one was a softball for me. You got to tell him he missed an opportunity.
But then he probably would have to tell you the truth, and he would have told you how hard it is to work with me. And honestly, I don't even know why he does it every single day, but it's been a blast. What I want to say is going to sound a little weird at first, but then like I'll explain. One of the celebrations for me is the fact that because we are in the midst of the pandemic, it really forced a lot of entities to address the inequities that we do have in education to start off with. Because a lot of times, like, we didn't really give a lot of service in regards to our actions for the inequities that a lot of our kids face at home, that didn't have access to technology, that didn't have the connection that needed to be had, that everyone's talking about, like that personal one-on-one piece. So the level of empathy that has grown because of the pandemic, I'm absolutely proud of to a certain degree. The second thing that I'm really proud of is the fact I'm not going to sit here and tell everyone like we've changed the game completely. We mastered online learning. Like, it's an adaptive change. So it's going to take us all some time to get accustomed to it. And that's something that everyone has consistently said, like, it takes time. It takes time. And like, we need to learn how to like embrace the fact that things really do take time. We're not supposed to be experts at teaching virtually and in person simultaneously. We weren't trained to do that. So the fact that people are now collaborating at higher levels, the fact that we are now paying more attention into what really needs to be focused on when we're with the kids, by making sure we have personal connections, and even with the curriculum, instead of trying to look at covering 50 things, we're honing in saying these are the 3 top things we're really going to focus in on to guarantee students are learning. Like, those are celebrations for me, because otherwise, like, every day we're just going through the cycle. We're just going through the cycle. But just building that support system with one another, and then being here with each and every one of you, like, even though I haven't been able to come every week, I still talk to you throughout the week, and I hear how everybody else is doing. Like, that invigorates me. That invigorates people that I get to work with. So I appreciate those connections that we have.
Yeah, and staying connected keeps you, moving forward and really just appreciating what you have each day. So, Craig, we've heard some exciting things from you throughout, between having a nice icy drink one time, and then talking about going away and all these other fun things. But what would be one of your celebrations this year?
You can now. Ah,
There he is.
So I was sitting there just thinking it's just been amazing to listen to what everyone else has shared around not just advancing the goals that you have with your young people, not just seeing them having the opportunities to advance beyond remote learning into actually having in-person learning. That's a great gift that so many people are not always afforded. So I think those things are super awesome. I also think about the conversations we've been able to have to create safe spaces across the globe. And so knowing that when you have many, leaders like Emily and Molly and Ariel and Matt and Dennis and Jacqueline and Yaritza, who is out doing some phenomenal things, via Flipgrid, that we are also not just beholden to this space, but we're bringing our connections in our community out more broadly so that this is not just living here in this space. And I don't think that people know how much of a gift that is to really also share what you're learning, what you're taking away, the connections you're making and building, more broadly, because there's a lot of people who are sitting in silence who just don't know what to do because they've been stressed out. They felt like they've not been able to get through the normal course of things. A teacher who knows how to get in front of young people and command, just the awe, and have really good and sound moments, and struggle to do that and recreate that same experience in a virtual experience has been something that can be tough. But this has been a really great space to do that. I echo a lot of what Dennis said. It's interesting that in America, when so many school communities did not have and were not afforded, the funding for technology or the funding for social emotional learning supports, food, securities and economic supports to help families, that all of a sudden we come out of the woodwork. So in some ways, it's really interesting how in varying parts of America, we've actually seen some of the inequities actually addressed in this public platform. And I'm curious, after we get on the other side of COVID, what is going to happen? Are we going to be just as steadfast and just as, pronounced as we are in the work that we're doing? Or are we just going to kind of try to go back to business? But here's a really powerful jewel. And, I'll close my mouth for a moment and fill it with, something that should go in this empty glass. One of the things that I think that is really amazing for us is you can't undo what we've already done in regards to, now that you've put technology in the hands of young people, now that you've closed access gaps for families, regardless of whether or not you're rural or whether or not you are, in a housing development, that those same amenities that we've offered should still be offered so that we can close as many gaps as possible so that you get more young people, more families have the benefit of an absolutely, free and public education that they deserve with all of the things that they need to be successful. So I'm really excited about those things.
Well, that's awesome. That's a lot to take in, and thank you so much for sharing, all of you. And I know for me that this year has been one that I've been really excited and celebrated about. And I think I'm just thinking really quickly, maybe sorry, but she's back as a principal, but just thinking who on our crew is a district leader. And one of the things for me being a district leader is I miss the connections of being in a school. I was a principal for 11 years and I had a daily times that I could talk with teachers. I could go into rooms, I could see lessons. Every Sunday I would send out notices for the week. Here's what's coming up for the week. Here's a great article to read. And just feeling that connection. And for those of you who make that shift from a building principal or leader in some capacity to district leader, you go to central office and you're like, where's my peeps? Where's all the people I used to connect with? And I think having that opportunity with this crew, of course, we'll start with this group to connect weekly, to talk. I mean, you look at people that are on the screen right now, we have a range of new educators in their first year to educators who've been, I know Carrie's been here, I think Carrie, myself, and Melissa have been on this the longest. And I think for me to be able to do that every Sunday, I send out a newsletter like I would to the staff. We come on and we connect through the week. So for me, that's definitely something to celebrate. And I know, Dennis, you just put that you want to be a superintendent. And I think I've had a lot of talks with some of you know him more than others, but Bezo Marin, and we've talked a lot over this last, once he was going through his doctoral study and looking at different types of jobs, that go to the job that fits you best. And I know when I went through BC, I learned quickly that being a superintendent was not what I wanted to do because it took me further away from the direct impact. So I think that's been a celebration for me. I feel like I've had some positive impact. And I know we were joking about Taylor Swift at the beginning. Well, what would be something you could talk about for 10 minutes, which was a question Ariel posted. And that was my answer, that I could talk about how we could impact others. And I think having that with this group has been just something I've definitely been celebrating weekly and seeing what we could come from it. So one of our attendees, I'm going to pull over, Craig Shapiro, who's been doing some great things as well. I'd love for him to share. I don't want to tell him what to say, but he's done some things to support others within the health and fitness. He's been doing some great things. So I'd love for you to meet him. He was one of the guests on my other podcast, which all of you are always invited to. And I'd love for him to share, because that's what we're doing tonight, making more connections and sharing some successes. So he's jumping on right now. Hey, Craig, who also runs a great chat. I'm sorry I couldn't make it tonight.
Okay.
But Craig, introduce yourself. Tell us a little who you are and what are you celebrating besides having a little swatch behind you? I'm sure you got some painting to do over break.
That's what happens when your wife puts a paint swatch and it's been there for about 30 years, Honey, let's pick another color, okay? Or let's just keep that one swatch there, be unique. So, hi everybody. Thanks, Matt, for doing this. As always, I think you do so many great things. I don't know. I mean, teaching for 32 years, coaching for about 32 years, fitness person, lead teacher, all the same stuff, I don't want to, I guess the celebration stuff, I know a few people on here. I would say really, this is for everybody. I think sometimes we have to really step back, especially when you're talking to other colleagues and you hear the stories of, a lot of times everything that's gone wrong. I have people that I work with where it's a constant theme of, well, this isn't right, or we're not being respected. And I get some of that, but I do think everything is about choices, especially in education. I am a firm believer that it's a choice how you view going into school. Simple as that. We're all going to have tough moments, tough days. Some people have tough years. I've done this for 32 years. Most of those years have been amazing, a few tough ones. I kind of have so many little mantras that I think about, especially after teaching for so long. And one of them, the very first day of school, and feel free to copy it because it's something that's worked for me. First day of school, whether it's virtual or not, we always do something called a promise. What's your promise? And the kids are like, what do you mean? And most people do not call me Mr. Shapiro. Well, first of all, every kid calls me Shap. So I haven't been called Mr. Shapiro in probably 15 years. I'm like, well, what's your promise? I'm like, what does that mean? I'm like, well, my promise is every day I'm coming to work, I'm coming in happy.
Nice.
They're like, well, how are you going to do that? I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. It's going to be a mantra. It's my mantra that when I leave my house, even if I'm tired or sore from working out or whatever I'm doing, I'm leaving the door, opening the school door and coming in smiling. I think that's just something that, it's not always easy. It's challenging. Especially now during these times where there's so many obstacles in our way. And we do have to realize, like, when I say coming in happy, it doesn't mean perfect. Like sometimes we live in the euphoria that everything has to be exactly the way, especially as educators. As educators, everything has to be in that little space, This standard has to be there. That objective has to be there. This kid needs to do that. That's not real world. Nothing is like that.
That totally, that makes a lot of sense. And I think we could even go off of that as we talk about celebrations and as we talk about things that have been going well. Like for Emily and Molly, going off that same thing, what are some things that you go in Monday? We got a last full week next time. What are some things you're going to go in next week, make sure that they happen? And Craig, thanks for jumping on as always. Check out Teach Pause Sunday nights.
Thank you, Matt.
So ladies, what are some things you're going to go into next week and continue to celebrate as we wrap up our last full week? Besides Taylor Swift's birthday.
Oh, my kids have already celebrated her birthday on Friday, and we'll continue to celebrate tomorrow. But honestly, on the track of that, like continuing to have fun and bring other things into the classroom than just schoolwork, especially this week. And now my school isn't very like Christmas forward, just because we have a lot of different types of people, a lot of different religions, but the holidays in themselves and winter break is still a really exciting time. So we're going to be trying to do some fun things this week, winter themed things, or just pajama day, things like that. So maintaining the learning, but also bringing that fun aspect into the classroom is something that I want to keep doing this week and next week, and make sure that we're ending the trimester on a strong note, but also on a really happy and positive note.
Awesome. Well, that's great. And I think was talking a little bit about what Craig was saying about that you're going to promise to do that in a sense. So that's great.
For me, we have been fully remote for the last 4 weeks, but tomorrow we are actually going back in person for the last week before Christmas. So I'll be able to be in school. I haven't gone to school in 4 weeks. I've been teaching from here, but so that's going to be a challenge in itself of like, we just got into this pattern and now we're going back to a new pattern. But like Molly said, it is a fun week. And I think that now that they're so much more comfortable with the remote learning, we can use like a lot of tactics that we just settled into. A lot of the students really opened up too. And I think they just felt more comfortable, like they had family come join in, they showed their pets, they had things around their house, and they're so excited to share. So I think that we were able to have a deepened connection, which is so hard to make sometimes when you're all staying 6 feet apart with your masks on, you can't really see each other smiling. So I think now that we all were in each other's rooms and really hanging out, that this next week is going to be really awesome in person. So I'm excited to be there.
Awesome. And I know Ariel and Jacqueline, you were in different roles this year. So same profession. What has been something this year that's been rewarding in those new roles? Because I know there's been a lot of challenges, but what's something that's been rewarding?
Well, I've never worked with students. I've never taught students all day in the same room before. I was a secondary reading specialist. I saw my students 40 minutes a day, every other day. So it's just really nice to be with the same kids all day, every day. And I feel like it's almost like I'm watching them grow so quickly because I'm not used to this. So I'm really just going to enjoy and celebrate the end of this year and find the silver linings with them, because next year in 2021, we'll see what happens, and we hope to just continue to be in person every day. But it's been very rewarding for me to work with these students for the amount of hours that I am, because I've never had this and I don't think I'll ever do this again. So it's just a 1 year temporary situation that I feel really grateful for, because it's something that I don't know if I would have had this opportunity if it wasn't the situation that I'm in.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
I would say just the fact that, so I've taught high school my whole career. I've always been in the high school. I taught middle school, summer school a little bit. But just being with kids that really love learning. We don't get that all the time at the high school. Like, so my goal this year has been trying to figure out, like, where do we kill it? Because when I get them, freshman year, I don't know, something happens, but I just love their enthusiasm, and they're like jumping out of their seats as we're reading Refugee, and they're just, they're so into it, and every day is just like, it's just so awesome and so fun. And we get to have these really deep conversations about world problems, but then we also get to just get to know one another and just be excited and learn new things. And when they have like that aha moment, it's just like, usually like with freshmen, it's like, oh, but like with these sixth graders, it's like they're jumping out of their seats and, I've never experienced that before, and it is so cool. So I would say that that's probably been my most rewarding thing this year.
Awesome. And I know Dennis and Craig, you've been school leaders for years, but this is the first time you've been school leaders in this virtual sense. What has been definitely something that's been either a silver lining or a positive come out of this? Because I know the list of struggles could go on, but something this year as a leader in this setting or in this capacity that has been like, okay, I like this and been proud of it.
For me, it's about creating spaces where you can empower leaders to shine and giving them the spaces to say, it's okay, the water's fine, that we will navigate this together. And I've seen my team rise in regards to my leaders, but it started with us understanding what is our personal constitutions, what are our core values, what are the norms for how we engage as leaders, because we understand what the work is, but we had to understand how we work and how we function. And then we could create the kind of balance that's necessary to be able to do the really important work. So sometimes regardless of your role, you just said, I know this person is supposed to do it, but could I jump in and support them in this way? And the entire school wins every time that we find ourselves in these spaces. So for me, it's really been about an opportunity, not just to, really support and like really lift my leaders, but also amplifying the great news that are happening across the school community, like celebrating successes, small wins, opportunities to just blow everything up and say, hey, y'all have to stop and pause and see this really awesome thing that is happening across the community. And we've had some really, amazing elements that happen, regardless of the challenges we faced. And I think that's why we keep the momentum going. And people, even though they're to the ends now in regards to being burned from just working so hard, those small wins keep them saying, okay, we can get to 5 o'clock on December 18th. We let's just push through and we'll be fine.
No, that is awesome. And I'm sure your leaders, I saw you in action in your last school, so I'm sure your leaders here appreciate that and really thrive.
Okay, I'm muted now. I'm gonna go with Craig. And in order to empower people, you have to be able to trust them. And trust comes through going through high levels of conflict sometimes. Trust goes through your ability to learn. And a couple of weeks ago, I was talking with an educator, and we have some very strict goals focused around reading at my school this year. And we can't let go of those goals. Like, our kids have to learn how to read, even if we're in a virtual format. And one of the educators in our building, we were talking, and she said to me, Dennis, you're changing my position. You're pushing me like I've never been pushed before. I do not like it. It makes me uncomfortable. But I trust the vision that you're bringing to our school. So therefore, I'm willing to do it. So for me to know that in this short time period, because this is my second year at the school, and you have to remember my first year was cut short because of the pandemic, to have someone who has been at the school a number of years pull me to the side and say this to me in the midst of a pandemic, that we're still moving forward, that we're still going to try to create changes that are going to create better outcomes for kids. And to know that more and more educators are aligning with that, whether I see it or not, because as a school leader, I'm always on the go. I'm always on to the next thing. So sometimes I need to take the time to just sit back and reflect on the journey that we're on. But that was probably the most powerful moment, because educators also are starting to see that it's somewhat of a myth in regards to the separation between principals and educators. A lot of the work that we do is advocating to create the best conditions for educators to perform in. And that's another silver lining that's happened for me in the midst of this pandemic. More and more people can see the advocacy that is going forward to create conditions for high levels of student learning.
No, I think that is so important and sometimes not talked about enough, especially just to go back to one of the first things you said about where the teacher said that, I won't say exactly how you did, but essentially you were pushing her and giving her honest feedback. And one of the things that I have tried to pride myself on, and sometimes, come across as cold or unemotional, but when you give someone honest feedback, you actually do care more about them than just yesing them or like, oh, you're great. And I think that's so important, Dennis. And I've seen that. I've seen it. I see you do it, and it's awesome. So we got about 7 minutes left, and I know I like to leave you with something. And one of the things that we don't do enough about, we don't do enough with, and I hope that we can share tonight as we talk celebrations, is we always pass off the credit. We always say, oh, that was a great lesson, or Jason's doing a great job, so our school's successful, or whatever, fill in the blank of other things. But what is something that you are proud of that you have been able to accomplish in this short time? And I'll wrap it up. But one of the things I wanted to say to Emily and Molly, I'm just so proud of you and your risk taking and a willingness to come on almost every week. And this isn't an easy thing to do. And I've seen you both grow. And from August, when you were like stuttering to begin and start and like, oh my gosh, don't call me first, to now like just being an impactful part of this and a voice for the new teachers. And 3 weeks ago, I think it was, Emily stepped up and was like, I'm going to run the whole thing. And you had 2 leaders on there with Dennis and Tracy, who are accomplished leaders and accomplished in the field. And you did that. So I'm proud for you for doing that. So I just wanted to say that to you live, because I won't be able to be here next week. But I know, Dennis, this is hard for you. And I know this is hard for all leaders to actually, and that was a cop out if it was for mine to say I'm proud of other people. I'm gonna have to say something for myself as well. But I wanted to say that to Emily and Molly, because it's a big accomplishment in your first year. I mean, you were college students a year ago, and to do this in your first year is remarkable. But I definitely would like for you all to share something. And I think to do that, we have to practice it more, because we have to show that ownership, and we have to be proud of the things we do, because we have to move away from that, oh, you're bragging or you think you're great. Well, if you've accomplished something, celebrate it. It's okay to say that. So I'd love to hear some things for you as we close up that you are proud of that you accomplished this year. And I'll just sit here and wait. Boring TV, but someone's going to share.
I'll start. I'm really proud of myself for asking for help when I need it. I've been I was not the type of person in the past that has asked for help, and I know that I needed it, and I like to work alone. And it's definitely had some hard times before in the past, because I know that I needed support and help, and I didn't like to ask for it. But this year I certainly need it, because I'm in a brand new role that I've never done before. And from reaching out to others for support and help, I've really made some great connections that will be long lasting in my school district and with all of you. And this has been a great opportunity for me to share my knowledge, but I've really learned more than I've shared. So it's been a really good experience for me. And I'm looking forward the rest of this year to continue to ask for help when I need it, because we truly are better together. And that's something I've learned a lot this year, over and over. And I share that with my students every day.
Awesome. And thank you for sharing. I know that's not an easy thing to do.
Along the lines, I can go next. I think something I'm proud of is not always asking for help. So kind of like a different spin on it. Like, I think that being a first year teacher, it's very anxiety provoking. And like, I feel like every little thing that I'm doing is either not right, or I need approval from a mentor teacher or for someone else in the school being like, am I doing this right? Or should I do this? I think sometimes not asking for help and just trusting my gut and like doing what I think is going to be best for my students, not just what my mentor teachers have done in the past. They tell me, oh, I do this and this works, so you should too, but doing things that I think that would work as well. And so I think, of course, I ask for help all the time and questions all the time, but kind of like backing off from that and just doing what I think works for my kids rather than seeking approval in every little thing.
Awesome. Thank you.
Since we're unmuted already. So something that I am proud of myself for is I think that I have made learning really fun for my kids, and that was like my biggest goal. I always remember my teachers that made the classroom the most exciting, and I always wanted to do that. And it has been a really hard year on a lot of levels, and there's been a lot of days when I go in and like I do not feel like singing songs or putting on my teacher voice, and I do it anyway for the kids, and it ends up making me feel better too. So I think that that's been a really positive experience this year so far.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for sharing.
I want to give both of you guys props for doing this your first year, because this is nuts. So I mean, you know, yeah, a lot of props to the first year teachers, because you know, you guys are killing it, even though it's definitely the craziest of circumstances. I would say that I'm like most proud of the fact that I have not completely lost my mind yet.
Okay.
I mean that, you know, big win there. We've been in person. It's been very stressful. We have a lot of students that travel, that weren't taking, you know, the quarantining seriously, that, you know, we just had a lot of issues with that. We have had a lot of COVID cases, but none that have originated at the school. So, you know, it's been stressful being in front of kids, not being able to like walk around my room. I stand at my podium, and that's so not me, but, you know, so there's been a lot of challenge, but I've been really proud of the fact that I go in every day. I'm excited to be there. I smile. You know, and it's genuine. And you know, I'm really proud that, you know, I've tried to really stick to what's positive and what I can control and do the best I can. There are days I go to bed at 6, and that's okay, you know, but haven't lost it yet.
Well, that's great. Dennis, it's almost that time, man.
I'm proud that so far I've only missed one lunch this entire year, and it was a big mistake of how I missed that lunch, because before I never used to eat lunch. But on a more serious note, I would say,
Hold on, before you go to the more serious note, that's important. Like, I know you make light of a lot of things, but that's important to eat and stay healthy. And I know Christine's on here, and I know we're great friends, and she talks a lot about that, with having that routine and eating and staying healthy. So that's not a small thing. So especially as leaders who are going. So don't brush over that. That's really important.
I'll be honest with everyone. There were days like I never ate at work. Like I would just get up and go. Didn't take out the 15 minutes to eat. So like with me, Jason, and Sarah, my other assistant principal, we like are on each other. Like, make sure you eat. Like that's such a critical part. And it has to be healthy food. Like we're transitioning into more healthier food too. So like that's another big thing, because you know, if you go out to eat all the time during lunch, it starts to hit your bank account a little bit.
So you were going on to something else too, but I didn't want you to gloss over that.
The other thing I would say is I'm learning how to embrace the journey of who I'm becoming more. A lot of times we feel like we don't have a voice, or we feel like we're just on the go, so we don't really understand our true impact in the lives of others, or how other people view us from time to time. And I think that part is really hard, because when you start to see yourself one way, you start to create a level of self-doubt sometimes. And then being connected to the right people that always push you. Like, Matt, I think you had this question set up purposely especially when you found out I was like here. I think that's something that I started to like celebrate just a little bit more, because if you can't take the time to look in the mirror and say like, you know what, I did do something well, you will always fall victim to all the negativity that's around you. And you have to let the light inside of you shine first before you can impact anyone else.
No, that's awesome. And thank you for sharing. That's important. It's been awesome to see you embrace that journey. And yeah, I'm going to keep pushing you, because I believe in you, man. Craig, that leaves you. And then I'm going to wrap it up with my own.
Good gracious. Humble leadership. Humble leadership. That, you know, I almost as humble as Dennis's tie. Right. Oh gosh. You know, I'm grateful that people allow me to make and take space with them. I don't think that people really realize the power there is that people, when people want to spend time with you, or that you have the opportunity to create space for others, that is a great gift. You know, Matthew, I am incredibly grateful for you creating multiple spaces where we can connect all the time in different ways, and seeing your heart show up in so many spaces that you created. You know, this opportunity invited me along. I'm really grateful for that, and that I have an opportunity to work with who I believe is the nation's real superheroes, our educators. You know, so when we have Emily and Molly and Ariel and Jacqueline and others out in the trenches doing this work on a day-to-day basis, that you are in it every day and you keep showing up, and that is going to have an exponential impact on the lives of so many young people. So I am definitely grateful to be working alongside you and the hundreds others, or hundreds of thousands of other educators who are doing this work. So for me, it's about being, you know, just being grateful that I do have an opportunity to have space, and also be able to share space with others, because that's a gift that keeps on giving.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. And for me, as we wrap it up, I'll talk about two different things. And, you know, one of the things that I've always tried to do as somebody who has, you know, two books that are published, write articles, go and, you know, speak in different places. I always try to carry myself in a way that's not being vulnerable, that I keep this persona up, that I either know things or I have answers. And this year I've been proud to put myself out there in two different realms with the Walking Ed. You know, fitness has been something of a challenge for me over, you know, my years. And, you know, Christine's on here, and I love her for pushing me and running and getting me into a place to be comfortable with doing that in the Walking Ed and getting out there. So, and sharing my journey of that, of like, okay, I'm doing this and trying to get better. I mean, we went running today, and she continues to push me with that. So that's something I'm proud to try to overcome and share that journey for others who might not be at the same place or are looking to start. And then professionally, obviously, Craig and Dennis, I've done a lot of work with the equity piece. That's something that is a vulnerability for me, to go on a live broadcast and not have an answer, or be, you know, the only white person on the screen, and like not have any of the answers, or not have answers, and ask for support, and continuing that conversation through MASCD. So I've been trying to show other leaders that that's okay to do that. It's okay to say, I've been in, you know, a leadership position for 16 years now, and I need some advice. I need to remove some of my own biases, and I need to be comfortable saying that to whoever's watching. And, you know, at one point in our MASCD, we only had 300 some people there. So for me, that's been something that's new for me, but something I want to continue to do is show other leaders that it's okay to have that persona. So
I appreciate all the work you do, Matt. I've got to tell you that. Like, I don't know if people really understand. Matt is one of the busiest people I have ever met, and I thought I was busy. I can't keep up with Matt. So Matt, like, just thank you for like always pushing the envelope. Thank you for bringing so many people together, because you truly are one of the people that I feel really understands that being connected is the only way that we can elevate the world of education.
Well, thanks. I'm trying. We're trying. We can do what we can. Like I said at the top, of trying to have that feeling of running a building or running things, and doing it with all of you has been a great joy for me and a celebration. So we are definitely up against it, in the sense that I want to always try to keep it to about 45 minutes, so that we have people keep coming back and keeping it concise. So I want to thank all of you for all that you do. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. We had a very busy chat. We had Craig come over. So thank all of you. I hope you have a great last full week. And if nothing else this evening, have a slice of cake. It is Taylor Swift's 31st birthday. Molly made a cake, and it's just an exciting day. So I hope you all have an awesome evening. Happy birthday to all the Swifties out there, and enjoy and have a great last week of 2020 with your students, or whatever role that you're playing with you in education.